Welcome to the Erotic Realm, where we dive into the depths of sexuality, kink, and everything in between. I'm your host, Em, and each week I'll be interviewing a fellow kinkster to explore their desires, the psychology behind their eroticism, and what shapes their unique experiences. Whether you're a seasoned kinkster, just starting out, or simply curious, this podcast is for you. So sit back, open your mind, and let's journey into the erotic realm together. Today, I'll be interviewing Hades, a 42-year-old male, dominant, fascinated by behaviour, psychology, and neurochemistry. We discuss all of these topics and more. But before we get started, I'm so proud to introduce to you our sponsor, Mercy Industries, an Australian-owned and made brand specialising in handcrafted luxury, leather gear and toys. They offer free worldwide shipping on orders over $80, and their quality is unmatched. I personally own 2 of their products. My favourite, a custom-made leather bondage collar in my dream colour combo, red, black and gold. It came with a double-sided name tag and a lockable buckle. I love it so much, I'm actually wearing it right now. The craftsmanship is incredible, and they custom make it to your size. I'm also obsessed with their innovative Verse strap. This is the only handbag strap that transforms into a 3-part bondage restraint set. It's sexy, versatile, and available in rose or yellow gold, perfect for events or spicing things up. Mercy Industries has so much more: floggers, cuffs, harnesses, anything your kinky heart desires. Check them out at mercyindustries.com. And don't forget to tell them that the Erotic Realm sent you. Now, it's time to embark on today's journey into someone's erotic realm. Let's explore together. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Erotic Realm, where science meets the stories of desire. Today, I'm excited to have with me Hades. Welcome, Hades.
Hi, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So, let's begin by getting a feel for your erotic realm. How would you describe your sexuality?
I think evolving. It's usually tied to who I am as a person and where I am at that time. So usually always directly informed by or inspired by what I do within my life. So whatever therapy I may be going through, whatever reading I may be going through, whoever I am with at that time, and their wants and needs, and those areas of inspirational sexuality that they're wanting to explore as well. So I usually take that as an inspiration to the spaces that we create together. So at this point in time, I think I'm trying to delve deep to understand behaviors, areas that I want to explore. So passions, maybe areas that, that require a bit of safety that I haven't had before, that I have with certain partners. So at the moment, exploring things like free use, CNC to varying degrees as well, and different modes of training, and also power and control as well. So taking that from people or from a partner and giving that to me. So allowing them a safe space to fully give up, let go, and hand over any sort of control to myself.
Okay, so fascinating.
They're sort of the things. Yeah, they're sort of the things that that are sort of driving me at this point in time. Understanding those things that energize me, that want me to do more, to explore more, to dive a little deeper, and to really sort of embrace that and do that with key people that I feel comfortable with.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing. So it sounds like you're quite flexible in your roles at the moment. What roles, in terms of your kinky sexuality, would you currently describe yourself as being most of the time?
Dominant is my primary role,
Hmm.
and it is something that I would like to explore. Um, Giving up, I think. So, I mentioned power and control
Hmm.
um, is something that I think, I don't have a lot of power in my life, so therefore I want to exert power or have power, but then also control. I seem to need a lot of control in everything that I want to do. So the idea of being able to give up that control to someone
Mm.
that I'm comfortable with, I think is something that I may need to push into and explore a little further, because maybe control is not something that I actually want or need sexually. It might be the absence of control in some instances. Outside of that, I guess it depends on the partner that I'm with.
Hmm.
So it could be very different. So I like to be quite dynamic. So it could be quite primal with certain people. It could be quite vanilla with some people as well. But then it also could be quite, we could push boundaries with other people as well. So, you know, I, I've historically been what I would consider maybe a soft dom or a pleasure dom.
Hmm.
So, trying to turn that on its head and uh, be quite forthright in what I want and my needs over necessarily that of that person that I'm with is something that I'm wishing and exploring.
Okay, and is that a recent change for you? This change from pleasure dom into being more primal? And I'm curious, if so, what made you want to do that for yourself?
Yes, yeah. So recent, I think, I only really discovered what a pleasure dom was
Mm.
maybe a year or two ago, and then since then, I guess it's just I meet people and I experience things with different people who then impart to me different opportunity or provide me different opportunities
Hmm.
to explore that. And recently, maybe in the last few months. Sort of started to understand that I would just give and give and give without actually taking, which sometimes would end up leaving me. I'd still receive pleasure, but it would be to a point where I was exhausted and could no longer sort of receive that pleasure myself.
Mm.
And I realized that that was something that should explore remedying to some degree. And I guess as a catalyst, I have met someone that we have set boundaries and discussed opportunities and scenes in which we can really sort of dive into um, areas of that would generally be considered maybe taboo
Hmm.
to a degree, but also providing a space that I could just do what I want, actually sort of go by gut feeling
Hmm.
rather than being performative or having to overthink about what are my partner's responses, what should I do now, how should I vary what I'm doing now to enhance their pleasure. It could be, what do I want to say right now, how do I want to say it, to exact a response from them, knowing that it would bring them pleasure, but at the same time it's allowing me to be authentic to some degree and bringing out maybe a sort of a raw or an animalistic side to myself that I have not been able to release previously. So it's been quite a fascinating and to some degree liberating journey as well.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. And I think this is really important to share actually, because this isn't the first time that I've heard a pleasure dom talk about this struggle with giving and taking. And I'd just like to talk a bit more about what a pleasure dom actually is. What does it mean for you to be a pleasure dom?
Well, I guess it depends. Like there was a certain rhetoric, I think, or a certain line that I had convinced myself of, is that, I think initially it started out as a bit of a, like from a younger age, a fear of poor performance. I think so. It always put the emphasis on the partner, their pleasure, that it must be reciprocal to some degree. So I think it started out that way, that it was always the woman first. But then it sort of did evolve where it was still the woman or partner first, and then I started to note that I did enjoy responding to sort of the noises, the stimuli, the requests, or whatever that would happen. So it was it made me feel like I was needed. I belong. I was grounded with that person and providing them pleasure and experiences that they may not have had with other people to some degree. So it was making me feel valued by being in that role.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing how our sexuality is so linked to our personality and also our confidence and just how we operate in the world as well. So I'd like to get to some real fun stuff now and ask you about a pivotal sexual experience for you that has shaped who you are today in your eroticism. What comes to mind when I ask you about sexual experience that's just really been a peak experience for you?
I think probably quite recently, like I touched on exploring CNC and free use and things of that nature. And I think there was sort of one afternoon maybe. So it was just sort of a series of escalations.
For those that don't know, can you just briefly describe what CNC is for you?
Oh yeah, consensual non-consent. Pushing those boundaries into those areas that may be considered unsafe, or I don't know how else to describe it, that people would not normally do day to day within their sex lives. So, like for instance, that afternoon we discussed pushing different areas, creating these mini scenes in amongst all discussions regarding boundaries and rules and how to what to push and how, and what we were comfortable with. So it was all informed, and I guess prior consent given, but it was a series of escalations to that I initially just came in the house, and I just started instructing pants off, get into this position, and just took what I want. And then from there, it sort of escalated a bit further, and then it sort of moved on to a hand over mouth. There was a request to slap, throw to the floor, hold down, and to say things like "it'll be all over soon," "don't struggle," and sort of just really sort of push these things, sort of playing with this idea that they are giving up their body and their mind to me to play with and take what I want, get the pleasure that I want from this situation, while also having a bit of fun with pushing this story or this narrative along, as well as really sort of tickling those areas that they had really explored, sort of they hadn't had the chance to explore with someone that they were comfortable with or safe with. And really just, I think the key word is to have fun with it, and really push it. So that was sort of both our first experiences in doing that, to that level. And it was sort of a sit down afterward going, okay, that was really quite fun. That was really quite hot. And then having those moments together where you could sit down and reflect upon that situation, you could actually bond over that situation, debrief, and also just have that feeling of being grounded and connected with a partner in that space after it. And then just say, what do we want to do next? What do we want to push a little further? What do we want to tweak? So to sort of treating it like a bit of a game, has been really quite revealing.
Beautiful. I'm curious, was the hottest part of that for you putting your pleasure first?
Yeah, to some degree, yes, but there was still really quite hot moments where I would just say stuff. I would think of it and I would say it and I would see the reaction.
Mm.
And then that would then in turn um, spur me on to wanting to push it a little further and then free me up to then go, okay, this is good. I can go with what I feel mentally and then physically, and yeah, sort of focus on my pleasure, not have to worry about anything else. And that could be, don't say a word, don't move. I'm going to do what I want now. And to then know that they were still receiving pleasure from that and that they were enjoying that and liking those commands and then liking seeing me experience pleasure from that situation and experiencing pleasure from their body and also their experiences was also quite freeing and extremely hot as well as at the same time.
It sure sounds like it. And I'm so happy that you found each other and are exploring that. Now, for the listeners, in case you didn't know, I asked people to fill out a form before coming on the podcast. And on it, I asked various questions about your sexuality and the why behind your desire to be on the podcast. Now, Hades, you mentioned in your application that you are fascinated by behaviour, psychology, and neurochemistry. I'm curious to know what fascinates you about these topics and why those three in particular.
Behaviors, I guess, a big one and a good one to start with. So, I work within digital design. I've done user research, etc. So understanding why people want to do stuff, why they do things, why they don't do things sometimes, and the behaviors behind that and the thought processes behind that has been all quite fascinating. And then I turn those techniques sometimes on myself. So I will treat certain situations like a research project or an iterative design process to pushing myself to understand more about myself and then also the communities or the areas or the experiences that I am in to learn more about people, but also more about myself. So if I did this in this way with these people, what can I learn about myself in that moment? So it gives me a way to reflect back deeper to understand my own behaviors, my own triggers, my own limitations as well. So it has been very valuable, almost integral to my personal development and my understanding of my brain and its wiring. In regards to the psychology, it sort of feeds from that. So undergoing sort of therapy to undo scars of old and also set myself up for the best future going forward. So understanding that, I've not done things the way that I would like to have done them previously and not really taken advantage of my life. I'd like to undo that and then get myself to a good place to really sort of have the most fun and I want to say satisfactory, but the best life moving forward, I think as well. And that also then informs the understanding or my interest or fascination into neurochemistry as well. So wanting to understand what drives me, so understanding of dopamine and why certain things trigger me in certain ways, behaviors that inform that, and then also wanting to understand if I'm deficient in some areas. So I believe I am neurodivergent, so I'm likely going to be very highly dopamine driven, but then also might also be constantly under baseline. So wanting to understand if I improve my dopamine levels with supplementation, maybe I can focus better or enjoy situations better. And the same goes with the here and now chemicals, so oxytocin, serotonin, just so integral to the way that we connect with people in life, and tied to our mood and happiness as well. So really wanting to understand myself and the way my brain works and informs my behaviors and actions, to just try and have the best time, and the best experiences possible, knowing that everything is working the way it is. Also, it's just genuinely like fascinating to understand things that are triggered, and the way they're triggered, both good and bad, because our brains are hijacked by so many things these days, and it's trying to limit those things personally to then focus my energies and the things within my brain and my body to good pursuits, or those pursuits that I get the most enjoyment and passion out of.
So you mentioned you supplement. I'm curious to know, have you found that helpful with your responses and your dopamine responses?
Helpful, I am on the fence about.
Okay.
So I have been taking things like L-tyrosine, which is a precursor to dopamine, and 5-HTP, which is a precursor to serotonin. I'm on the fence about the 5-HTP at this point in time. I have had noticeable effects with the L-tyrosine, but that is yet to be. I've yet to figure out whether or not that is actually a good thing or a bad thing. Because maybe if I'm highly dopaminergic, and driven by novelty and conquest and like that dopamine release, especially from a sexual nature, then potentially that may not be constructive long term if I, for instance, want to find someone to have a stronger bond with. Because if I'm always seeking novelty, then it will not allow my brain to settle into the here and now chemical states of oxytocin and serotonin, where you can strengthen those bonds. You can be a little more present with those people that you want to be with over a long period of time. They're essential for longer, more secure attached relationships. But they have helped to some degree in the shorter term. But yet it's still ongoing. It's only been a few weeks, couple of months, and it's one of those things that I'm tinkering with, trying to find a stack that may actually help with day-to-day life, at least outside the realms of sex and passion and eroticism, to hopefully get myself to a point where I'm at a good place to be able to work, live, and enjoy myself.
Beautiful. And I'm curious to hear the outcomes of your research with that. So keep me in the loop. Now, you mentioned being neurodivergent just now. To me, it seems there are a lot of kinksters that are neurodivergent. How does that sit with you? Do you feel the two often go together? Would you say being neurodivergent has drawn you towards kink? And if so, in what ways?
Yeah, from my conversations, the people that I've met, what I've been exposed to, my understanding of myself and also my partners as well, there seems to be quite a lot of people who are neurodivergent or may think they're neurodivergent. And that's within polyamory, non-monogamy, within kink itself. And I think it sort of what draws people to that is the connections that you can build, the trust that you can build within rules and boundaries, and like it provides this level of freedom. So once you know all of the things that you and your partner or the people around you can and can't do or won't do, and the things that you can do, it sort of provides a level of freedom where you can demask, you can let yourself out, your true self or your authentic self out to explore. or in some instances focus directly on a role or a persona that you can have
Mm.
within a scene. So you can take facets of yourself, of your persona that you would not normally allow out to play. You don't feel comfortable in doing so. They can come out in the confines of a scene,
Hmm.
in a persona or a role. So I find that a lot of people seem to be drawn to that because they get to celebrate aspects of themselves that they would not normally get to do, and explore those aspects too.
That's so beautifully said. And you've just articulated that in such a good way. And I think so many people feel that but don't know how to express it so well. So thank you for that.
Okay.
Um, you also mentioned in the application form about thinking about power dynamics and enacting control, both physically and non-physically. So
Mhm.
using things like energy transfer, words, and tone. And I'd love to hear more about this. You were saying how control comes in many forms: verbal, energetic. What is it about these non-physical methods like tone or energy transfer that captivates you?
I think, yeah, it comes down to like the idea of power or not having it in my daily life. And then if
Mm.
I can command someone to do something and they will willingly do it, and I can
Mm-hmm.
see that they experience a satisfaction or a pleasure or um, something from that experience, um, it's um, it's quite scintillating, I guess, to
Mm.
some degree, and energizing as well to not try and force someone to do something they don't want to do, um, but to be able to like command someone verbally and they will do that. They will try and do it to the best of their ability. Um, is very energizing. It's very fun. I mean, because you can like it's fun to restrain people physically and then take what I want from that, but
Mm.
to be able to tell someone to not fucking move, don't say a word, to look at me or to do something in a particular way, and then they will do that, is uh, sort of liberating,
Mm.
and to some degrees, or to many degrees, it's empowering.
Mm.
Um, and it sort of inspires, I guess, within myself, I want to push things a little further. I don't want to necessarily say artistry. That's not the right word. To tinker with the way things are done, and to sort of play with the way that we do it. Yeah, I find that absolutely fascinating. And then
Mm.
to take on that persona and that energy that comes from that scene, and being able to um, have my partner feel that or see that within myself, say a renewed confidence or um, a demeanor change, an energy, a determination that comes from them following commands.
Mm.
Um, Also is like it's fascinating to see, but it's also extremely hot to see the impacts of that, when they haven't been physically restrained.
And are you able to take that feeling of empowerment with you back into your daily life?
I think to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there's a lot of things that I can't control within my life, but then there is a lot of things that I can. And it's just being aware when people listen. Um,
Mm.
so when they stop and listen, it usually means that your words or your actions have weight, have importance. So it's understanding then what you say and how you say it. It becomes paramount, because if you were to, you get that space from your work colleagues or the people within your life to speak, and then you waste that time to speak with nonsense, or you do not say anything concrete, then you're sort of wasting that opportunity. You're wasting that influence, and you're wasting that power. So it's interesting to actually stop and observe, and then speak with intent. So it sort of helped me understand. It's the way you say things, but it's also what you say as well, and sort of how you say it. That is really important.
So, what has been the most surprising lesson about power in your exploration so far?
Hmm. I think it was the the realization that I wanted it,
Mm-hmm.
so that I, to some degree, yearned for some level of power.
Mm.
Um, and that may come from a misguided want to create order. I guess that's part of what I try and do in my life. I like to try and organize things, sometimes that do not necessarily need to be organized, but it's understanding, I guess, that I want power, and that there's certain people I can have power over.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I think that sort of feeds into the idea of not the philosophical idea of not trying to control what you can't control. So therefore, I can focus on controlling the things that I can control, and then receiving some sort of satisfaction or pleasure from that experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Power itself isn't a dirty word. I think quite often a lot of people have this idea that it's a bad thing to want, but I think we all desire some form of power. And that's one thing that kink offers us
Mhm.
as well. This we can get that sensation of power in a healthy, consensual way.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, power, along with power comes responsibility.
Mm.
So, and responsibility is something that, as a friend, a partner, a family member, a lover, um, as a dom, I take very seriously. So
Mm-hmm.
that responsibility, that their safety, their passion, their pleasure, all of that, is it's up to me to ensure that that is that they are safe to experience, that they have a safe space to be themselves, to let go, to not be judged, and that whatever happens at the end, that they will be safe with
Mm-hmm.
me. Um, and whatever power over them I have will be used responsibly, respectfully, and within the boundaries and the rules that we have come up with. So I do take the idea of the power that I have, is very much tied to responsibility.
That's so important. I love that. Thanks for sharing. Now, as part of the podcast, I like to explore a quote around sexuality.
Mhm.
And today I'd like to ask your viewpoint about a quote from my own writing.
Okay.
So the quote is: "Power is in the eye of the beholder." And this quote is a play on the common quote, "Beauty is in the eye of the
Mhm.
beholder." And I wrote it when I was exploring switch psychology
Mhm.
and the idea that you can't necessarily tell who is holding the power in a kink scene or
Mhm.
dynamic. And in fact, sometimes both people can feel they are holding the power.
Mhm.
So often there's this power paradox that occurs. And I'm curious to hear from you. Does this quote hold true for you? Is power really in the eye of the beholder, or is it something that's more objective and obvious?
No, I think you are right, and what you wrote, as well, is very, like, beautifully put. I find that um, everybody within a scene has some level of power over
Mm,
themselves, their emotions, and what they are being put through, even to a limited extent, or to a large extent, sorry, and then to maybe to a limited extent, they have power over that other person within that scene, or what they are doing at that time. So, and that comes from the communication side of things, as one part. So communicating wants, desires, needs, rules, responsibilities, personas, all of those sorts of things. You are making your wants, needs, and known to that other party. So they will take that on. So by doing that, you have some control over them to a varying degree. But even without the power over each other, you have so much power over yourself, in a lot of ways, without even understanding it. The power to let go, to just experience, to feel those things you want to feel, to focus on those things you want to feel, is very important. I think a big attraction to these sorts of things is the fact that everybody can be empowered to do what they want to do within safe spaces, within controls, within boundaries, and that if done right, I don't know if right's the correct word, if done according to the wants and desires of everybody involved, people can come out feeling rewarded and powerful to a degree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you for that. And in your application here as well, you've got about your ethos. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us more about that and how it shaped the way that you approach kink and power dynamics and who you are as a dominant?
Are we referring to like my quotes?
Yes.
Yes. So this year I've also, so there's been a few things, there's a few pivotal changes that I have made to try and make myself a better person and to enjoy my life.
Love it.
One is going to the gym, so doing hard things, basically, going lifting heavy things, because of the mental and physical rewards that you get from such a thing. The other is philosophy. So I've joined a Stoicism group, and have embraced reading and understanding myself, other people, and taking sort of a pro-social approach to a lot of things. And one of those quotes, that it was one of the first ones that I've heard, and it is quite famous, is amor fati. It doesn't happen to you; it happens for you. And when we think about these bad experiences that we've had, I wish they didn't happen. I wish that it could have been something different. But if we actually spend the time to pick apart these experiences and understand the outcomes or the opportunities from these experiences for ourselves personally or our lives, and actually do something about that, they are so powerful in with the opportunities of change that they can provide us. So we over time we get a patina. We age, we grow, we evolve, and these experiences can be a real catalyst to making decisions that will really change our lives, hopefully for the better. So I've been through experiences, and out of that, it was always sort of dwelling on these things that I could not change. It was outside of my control. But then what was in my control was to go to therapy, to dive deeper, to read, to understand myself and my behaviors, to converse with people and hear about their experiences and how they overcame things. It was all pivotal in my growth, self-acceptance, and getting myself to a place where I could open myself up. I didn't have to constantly dive so deep within myself to review and to analyze, and I could just accept myself and my shortcomings, my my good parts, as they are as a whole. So I think it's extremely valuable to understand that it is it happens for you, these experiences that I wish that I realized this sooner. And it's just that we sometimes need to take this time to naturally come to a point where we are like, oh, this is me.
Mm-hmm.
This makes sense. I need to change this. I need to do that. I do not want that person in my life anymore. Sometimes we don't have a shortcut to get to that point, and it's when we go through that experience, we can then learn, maybe for the next time, right, I see the red flags, I see the triggers, I see the things that have happened previously. I do not want that. I'm not going through that again. So that has been quite paramount in my understanding of myself and how I start treating my my trajectory, my evolution, if you will. So I try not to avoid things. I take them on head first, and I learn from them and move forward. The other one, I think is really important is consider the cost of inaction. So I especially do this, where I obsess about things being like right, correct, or perfect. Especially if I'm like, for something as mundane or as silly as buying an electronic appliance, I get stuck on specifications and prices and the design and engineering sometimes of these things, because they have this built-in failure or whatnot. So it's getting to a point where, I'm like, how much stress, tension, anxiety, frustration am I putting myself through for something that might only cost like $200 or $300?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that same goes to life experiences or sexual experiences. If you understand yourself enough, then you should understand, what you don't want to do, what you really want to do, and then something that you maybe want to do. And then if you are given those opportunities of those maybes or those yes things, then you can just sort of jump into it and then trust yourself. But I think it's very important to understand, if we're constantly on the fence, constantly worrying about what will happen, what the outcome is, we'll never actually get to do anything. And then we just put ourselves through all of those, that stress, and never actually, or sometimes never actually live through these experiences, which is what we should be doing, because that's part of life. It's what we seek is experiences. So trying to not overthink things and just trying to trust myself, who I am, my gut and my instincts, that if something takes my fancy, that I'll give it a go. And it may not be right for me, but at least I've tried it. I can reflect upon it, and I can learn and grow from that.
Wow. There's so much gold in what you've just said. I love it. It didn't happen to you. It happened for you is such a powerful reframe. So thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I'd like to explore another one of your roles that you mentioned before, the primal top. So how would you describe being a primal top, and what does stepping into the role of primal top teach you about things like instinct or trust or power?
So this is one I may not get to do very often, or maybe I do and I just haven't realized it, because maybe I've mixed it up with some of my other roles, or it's just in there. But I think, just sometimes I can just like let the animal come out, actually get really down to the biological and like chemically driven aspect of sex. That it can be raw, it can be really a visceral experience, and it's just about like sort of connecting with that and letting it go. So it's been fun experience when that has happened. So, I can just do and then respond. And in some instances, like, it's just the noises that come out are very animal, like grunts and almost growls as it gets really quite intense. And, saying I growl may sound a bit naff, but when it happens, it feels right. It feels like it belongs in that situation with that person. And it's quite nice to not have to worry about anything else, but just to let that animal side of me out, that biological side that, we've evolved to have sex, to do this thing and not to overthink it and just do it. Like it is an imperative, is been quite amazing to be able to have that experience and to do that.
Amazing. So I came across an article that I think touches on what we're discussing here. The title is Consensual BDSM Facilitates Role-Specific Altered States of Consciousness, a preliminary study. And in it, they basically interviewed 14 BDSM practitioners about what it was like to be in a BDSM scene. And what I'd like to focus on here is, because you're a dominant, they actually suggest that some of the DOMs in the study were able to get into what's known as a flow state. And this is something that's talked about a lot in positive psychology. It's a mental state in which a person performing an activity is fully immersed in the activity, and they almost forget about the outside world. They have full involvement and they feel like they're in the flow. So they might not think about anything else or experience almost a meditative state. And I'm curious to see if you've experienced this, considering your love of neurochemistry and behaviour and psychology, together with your experience with dominating and topping. Have you experienced something like this?
To some degree, yes. So I think with like impact play or things of that nature that are very technical, they require strikes in certain ways, maybe with certain timing. It's much easier to get into a flow state, especially if you're repeating these strikes. Like I've seen people doing it to music, and they're doing these complex series of like strikes with different floggers, etc., in time to this music, and they're just going and going and going. Like that sort of thing, you can definitely get into a flow state because you're just focusing on the task. You're forgetting everything else except for your responsibility. The task is given, and the way you're striking. So you can just get into this zone, if you will, of focusing on that. I don't do a lot of that sort of play, and if I do, it is shorter, so I don't have an opportunity to get into that flow state. But within the other areas that I am exploring, there can be a feeling similar to so with it's almost like a so just through going through different say different strokes or different almost a different cadence, like a physical cadence, if you will, I can ground myself to and be really present to some degree, and then just let go. So, and I can just allow myself to do whatever it is that I want to do. So I do sometimes struggle with that to some degree, and that probably ties back to the how dopaminergic I am. So I'm constantly driven for some sort of novelty or some sort of change. So that can get in the way of me sort of really getting into a flow. And then so I sort of maybe want to constantly change things up, different positions, say different things, which can break things up. But I have got to a point where I can just sort of go through what I need to do, but maybe not as deep as what they are suggesting within this paper.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to share about altered states of consciousness and what you've experienced from BDSM?
I did, yeah. I did like the escape from selfhoods theory, so Baumeister's. So like that sort of resonated with me and made me think of broader life as well as with BDSM, sex, etc. Like we're in a near constant pursuit of escape of self. So diversions through food, alcohol, drugs, sex, etc. So in some instances we just don't want to think about our lives. So within outside of BDSM, those things can be quite detrimental sometimes. So they can, like drugs, alcohol, etc. So they are a diversion that sort of essentially robs us of parts of ourselves, damages us. But I think within a BDSM space, like I touched upon roles and personas before, escaping self, we can step into the shoes of responsibility of a role, etc. within that, and just focus on what we are supposed to focus on at that time. So I do find that quite fascinating, because when you achieve that, it can be very liberating from the shackles of everyday life. But then the outcome of that is that it can be very rewarding as well. So, if you're with someone, a partner that you've been with for a while, even sometimes, like this paper suggests, in the short term, you can be grounded and connected to that person in a way that you would not be or could not be outside of BDSM. So having those here and now chemicals. So they reference the now within the paper, is the oxytocin and the serotonin, and the aftercare that happens after that, after a scene, is very bonding, is very rewarding, and you can feel that you have escaped from yourself for a period of time, but it wasn't in a bad way. You have grown from that. You've learnt from that, and you in some instances feel you can feel more complete. So yeah, I do find that idea quite fascinating as well, because I do find that I do that myself in quite a way, in different ways, and also the idea of transient hyperfrontality. As someone who disassociates quite regularly, it feels like this is a way of disassociating, but with a more grounded in body connection. So I found that quite interesting. So I believe this was more in the subs rather than the tops.
Yes.
But it's quite an interesting idea as well, because, with a scene that's been set up correctly, the sub should be able to let go. And in saying that, the top should be able to let go in some way too, to be able to then take on and get into the roles that they want to get into. So, and I think with that, there is a cycle of physical and neurochemical stimulation that, that you have the physical impacts, then you have the dopamine reward, and then during that scene, there is a transition to those other chemicals, the oxytocin and serotonin, that grounds you and keeps you in the present. So you're not a disembodied mind that is totally detached from your body and just in thoughts. You are shutting down parts of your brain to sort of focus on those things within your body and allowing yourself to let go. I find that quite fascinating as well.
Me too, and wonderfully said. How kink impacts the brain and the healing nature of kink is so important to share. So thank you for highlighting that.
Welcome.
Now, as part of our conversation today, I also asked you to bring along a quote or a book or a movie that has influenced your sexuality. So I'd love you to tell us what you've brought along today and how it has shaped your understanding of your erotic realm.
So there's not been a lot of books or things that have necessarily shaped me outside of the things, say, like parts of the philosophy that I read, that build my understanding of myself. So it is a conglomerate of different things. There hasn't necessarily been a singular catalyst that has um, really brought about that want for change.
Mm.
So there's I see things, I read things, I hear things, and then I factor that in or explore that from a multitude of different areas. So there's not really been a singular source of
Okay.
inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't really answer that question. So I had a song or a
Mm-hmm.
word or something along those lines, but nothing really inspires me emotionally in that way. I take a more clinical approach to things,
Mm-hmm.
if you will,
Mm-hmm.
and have a diverse research, uh, conduct a more diverse research.
I love it. I love the way your brain works. So we also have a tradition on the podcast where I ask you a question that has been sent in from a listener. So today's question is, what's been the most eye-opening discovery about your inner world through your kink exploration?
Hmm. Hmm. It's a good question.
It is.
Um, I think it's that there is an authenticity that runs through me, um, like all the way through me, that
Mm.
I cannot get around, I cannot trick, I cannot change. That even within the scenes or the roles that I take on, there is still, like, it is very much me. It is facets of me, but it is all informed by who I am as a person, what my beliefs are, my understanding, my knowledge of myself, and everything else that I have been reading about.
Mm-hmm.
So um, there's no way to, like, totally divert myself away from who I am. So even if I was to escape from selfhood, it's only really getting away from those outside worries of life. Who I am is still there, regardless of what I do, to some degree, for good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there is an authenticity that runs through me at every level that I just have to embrace. And I think that can be quite positive because, like I touched upon before, with roles, power, responsibility, rules, boundaries, all those sorts of things, they are so important to me within life, and that comes across into any sort of play that I do. I'll never necessarily jump into something that requires a discussion without having that discussion. And I think that is also of benefit and is noticed by the people that I'm with as well.
Mm-hmm. So as your understanding of your kinky self continues to evolve, what new directions or experiences are you most curious to explore next?
Yes. So I some of my continued reading was talking about the differences between people who are driven by dopamine and people who uh, are driven by the here and now, so the oxytocin and the serotonin. I feel like I am very much driven by uh, dopamine,
Mm-hmm.
so the novelty, the conquest, the all of those sorts of things. Um, and the need for control, or the want for control. So I think something that briefly touched upon is I would like to. This is going to sound weird. Give up control in a controlled way.
Mm-hmm.
To start with, before maybe transitioning into um, giving up control entirely. So some of the reading suggested to me that those who are dopamine driven may not be able to fully enjoy or some sexual acts, or sometimes may not be able to like achieve orgasm because of that dopamine, and not being able to transition into the here and now, and being able to let go. So that made me think potentially I should explore how to let go. So, and I mentioned a controlled way of giving up control is that um, I tried it out recently with a partner that I'd done the CNC with, and the other things that we're exploring is that it decided that while she's giving me a blowjob, I'm like, okay, I am not going to command you at all. I'm not going to give you any controls. I'm going to
Mm.
tell you to do anything, which is what I normally like to do. Do this, do that, do it in this way. I want you to do this. Don't move. All that the sort of stuff. Like I liked doing that. But what I did was I said to her that I want you to do whatever you think you should do to give me pleasure, and I'm not going to control anything. I'm not going to do anything. And in essence, all of the training, all of the controls up until that point, all of the prompts, um, she figured out or knew quite intimately what I liked. So I just let her do her thing. So I empowered her to do that while giving up control to some degree, which was quite an interesting experience. So I'd like to explore that a little more, and potentially do some research into and some thinking into ways that I might be comfortable in fully giving up control and testing those boundaries to see what happens. So what form that takes, maybe that is being dommed myself, could be quite fascinating, I think, and it would be a valuable area for me to explore.
I love it. That sounds like a fun direction that you're going in.
Mm.
Now, what impact do you hope to have with sharing your erotic realm with the world today?
I think it'd be nice to impart some of the knowledge and experiences that
Mm-hmm.
I have to other people, so they may not have to necessarily find it out for themselves. It may provide them some sort of inspiration to or guidance to look in these key areas,
Mm-hmm.
to focus on themselves, to get better within themselves, within their life, to understand themselves a bit more, so they can be free, be a little happier, and to have a better future, I think. So it'd be nice. Like I've done a lot of work on myself to understand myself. And it has been quite rigorous, sometimes even to the detriment of my um, short-term happiness. And so it would be great to be able to impart that to people and empower them to um, move forward. At the very least, hopefully, it was an interesting conversation and they have learned something from it.
I think they definitely have. So thank you for that. Now, if you had to sum up your sexuality in just one word, what would
Mm.
it be?
Hmm.
The hard one.
Dynamic. I think
Dynamic.
dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's sometimes the same, but a lot of times different. Like, I respond to the partners that I have. I like to understand what they want, what they need, but sometimes it's totally different between each partner. And it's just about changing it up. So not everything is good for each person. And sometimes I don't want to be the same person in each experience either. So I like to be as dynamic as I can, because if you don't, sometimes it becomes stagnant. You just have the same experience over and over and over again. Whereas I like to learn, I like to experience, I like to evolve, and be multifaceted in as many ways as possible. So that way I can just experience a rich tapestry of sexual and psychological experiences.
Very well said. So I'd like to thank you for being so open and sharing yourself with me and our listeners today, Hades.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. It's been an amazing experience to chat to you and to open up about myself and my thinking and my experiences.
Well, thank you again. I'm Em, and this has been the Erotic Realm podcast. This episode of the Erotic Realm podcast has been sponsored by Adult Bliss, Adelaide's ultimate destination for kink and sexual wellness. Just a 10-minute drive from the CBD, Adult Bliss has proudly supported the kink scene for years, offering the best selection of gear, including unique, locally made treasures you won't find anywhere else. But they're more than just a store. Adult Bliss is Adelaide's top-rated sexual health and wellness hub, with expert advice, a blog packed with insightful reads, and monthly kink and sexual health workshops that keep things exciting and educational. Whether you're exploring new fantasies or looking to deepen your sexual wellness journey, they've got you covered. Visit adultbliss.au and use the code EroticRealm25 for a cheeky discount and a free gift, because life's too short for anything less than your best sex life. Before we wrap up, it's time to announce the winner of this month's free kinky giveaway. A big congratulations to Jay Rain. I'll be reaching out to you soon to arrange your prize. If you'd like to be in the running for next month's giveaway, make sure to sign up for the Erotic Realm newsletter. I'd also love to hear from you, my listeners. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer on the podcast, want to be a guest and share your story, or are ready to explore your erotic realm one-on-one with a coaching package, head over to theeroticrealm.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time on The Erotic Realm.